I wanted to make this video given I haven't logged into WoW since I killed Mythic Zskarn with my guild. I don't intend to log in, sadly, anytime soon. Obviously when 10.2 releases I'll check out the changes. If it looks fun I might change my mind of course and play the game again. The first reason will be Baldur's Gate. I mean, truly a masterpiece, delivered by Larian that I've enjoyed for maybe too many hours already. I'm right now doing my second playthrough as Dark Urge. In general the game has been, how do I describe it? I mean, just fun. With that in mind, the first actual reason regarding WoW itself would be Augmentation Evoker. I'm not gonna spend the whole video talking about it, as I've already said numerous times how I feel about this lizard. We can talk about feral druids, how sadly those feel irrelevant. If you look at a resto druid or a guardian druid, if you bring one of those into your raid composition or your 5-man party, you already have your 5% first buff that they bring. They bring roar and innovate, so in terms of utility they're already beyond useless. So then for every single hunter I feel very bad for these guys. They don't have a single raid buff, especially if you consider that during Dragonflight's release they removed Binding Shot, and then if you look at the highest keys done, I can't remember a single time, sadly, that the hunters were there since Shadowlands, when the Wild Spirits bug. For then Elemental Shaman, this class still lacks a unique raid buff, it lacks raid utility. For 5-man content, again, you only would bring this class if it would do the most amount of damage times 2, which it hasn't for a very long time. We can talk about the multiplicative scaling, for instance. If you bring one evoker, well, then the second evoker is really good. And then if you bring 2 evokers, well then you want the 3rd evoker. And then if you have the 3rd evoker, well then the 4th evoker is also even better. So this kind of scaling and being brought to the raid, if you look at the 20 size fixed mythic raiding comp, I don't think that's healthy. I'm not gonna pretend if 4 mages are in the raid that's healthy. I'm not gonna say that for 4 DKs or even for any other spec or class for that instance. For heroic or normal, it does not matter. Since the dawn of time, people have stacked, for instance, 30 DKs or 30 demon hunters. There's plenty of content that you can watch out there that kind of thing has been done before. However, I'm strictly talking about Mythic. Alright, let's talk about the second reason then. Private Weakauras. Let's get into this topic. I've done every single Mythic boss this expansion, and I can confidently say, Weakauras, you do not need them at all. However, ironically, the first boss that has a private Weakaura in Echo of Neltharion, well then you need a workaround. It's pretty interesting, because if the developers decided to not bring back mechanics that needed Weakauras, we could talk about jailer bombs, for instance, in P1. It was slightly less intuitive running into the jailer holes and then getting knocked back up. In this case, where you just, on Echo, when you get the volcanic heart, well, you just run at the wall. I just don't think that having a 6-second timer, and then essentially if you do not have workarounds for this mechanic, that you're essentially expected to YOLO this. It's just not gonna happen. So right now we're having this issue where overlays have been a hot topic, but again, Blizzard has not said a word about this. Are they gonna change it before next tier? I have no clue. Next tier, are we gonna get 5 bosses with a private Weakaura? Are we gonna get 1? Are we gonna get 3? Maybe even 0? Who knows? With this kind of mindset, I just have zero faith, because you would expect that as a, how do I put it, the game going forward, you would expect the developers to put their time into making the boss mechanics either intuitive or using sound cues. Like when the Zskarn trap goes out, you notice it. However, if you on Zskarn get targeted by the Arcane Cleave, which again, I mean, you can wipe the raid if you mess this up, well, then in this case, you get no sound cue if you are targeted by it. So I just think stuff like that, where instead of going forward, we're going backwards with the private Weakaura topic. Alright then, let's talk about the next topic. Mythic Zskarn. No fucking way. Mythic Zskarn, similar to last year, Kurok. I don't think this boss was played as intended on launch. So I'm not gonna go into the developer who made Mythic Zskarn. I can say, however, there's a good reason he haven't made a boss before. I'm also not gonna pretend that I haven't said about this person he's lazy and untalented. Lazy for the fact that the boss was released with an obvious cheese mechanic that completely trivialized the encounter. And untalented because this boss, it reminds me so much to Mythic Lehuvum and seeing the potential that fight had compared to this fight. So people might not know this, but on Mythic Lehuvum, during the intermission, you had to kill a certain ad. You could kill the big guy, you could kill the smallies. That was up to your rate. Of course, there was eventually an optimal strat and people adopted this. However, on Mythic Zskarn, the dragon spawns, the frontal cone, the fact that this mechanic is truly irrelevant is mind-boggling almost to me. So, for instance, if you went to the north, dragon spawn, and the frontal cone hit the boss, in my world, how I would describe it, the best would be if the frontal cone, the north one, hit the boss, all the ads throughout the fight would get 10% extra HP. If you hit the south dragon spawn cone, well then it would get 10% movement speed to all the mobs. This by itself would create an enrage. Again, if the boss is not hit by the dragon spawn cone, the boss enrages by itself. The fact that this boss got released without an enrage, I mean, it can only be described as disgraceful. Especially when you, how do I put it, add the fact that you could be at the wall, you could cheese the traps, you could stay alive as long as you would want, you could bring 19 tanks. So what I would describe it would just be that with Mythic Zskarn they threw trash at the wall, and whatever stuck, and whatever fell off the wall, they slightly modified it. It's just that if you are throwing trash at the wall, at the end of the day you're still, I mean, it's trash, you're just not gonna get like a Mona Lisa at the end of the day. So yeah, with that kind of design, I don't think it's going forward in a healthy way with Mythic raiding, sadly. Even though I think if I were to rate the bosses this tier, I think there are some bangers, like at least Mythic Zskarn was enjoyable. It's just that the rest of the tier was, I mean, it's pretty mediocre if I compare it to Vault of the Incarnates that had like multiple bangers. Like we're talking like Aeronok, I mean, it's a great boss. Resogat, I still think is a great boss. Definitely a little bit boring on the 13-minute part, but I mean, it's just a great boss, in my opinion. Let's talk then about the difficulty curve in regards to item level scaling. Another topic would probably be parity, so like between PvP, Mythic Plus, and raid. I think it's great if a Mythic Pluser wants, for instance, a PvP trinket, and for instance, a PvPer wants like a broken raid weapon, stuff like that. I think is great. However, I'm not gonna pretend and say that if you are pushing like a plus 17 key that you do not deserve Mythic item level quality, but I'm also not gonna sit here and then say, oh well, it's not the lowest gap between a Mythic Raider and between a Mythic Pusher, for instance. The very rare cloak from Sarkaret, which, I mean, that's a whole nother topic about itself, about very rare loot and how Blizzard has basically poorly implemented this this item. I think mainly where that stems from is the acquisition method. It's not like we can just have a vendor where you can just with dinars buy like very rare items. The acquisition method includes this as well. Like if you have like a low drop rate, this definitely influence at least my sentiment with this, because if you're talking about items that like the Sarkrat Cloak or the Broodmother Ring or the Aeronok Ring, these are items that every single DPS, every single healer, every single tank, they would like to wear it. So if you have like a bad acquisition method, then everyone wants it. I just don't think that implementation is healthy with items. Just like gear in general, I don't think I felt less interested in gear. This tier you could just get probably within 8 days, get your borderline near Biz in 8 to 10 days. Which, I mean, it's great if you're like, you want to reroll, you don't have to have like this massive time sink or like you're time gated by things. However, I also think it's in terms of for like playing a patch, which I'm not right now, it would definitely help if there was something to do, maybe like again with parity stuff like, oh well, on the 10.0.5 patch we're now, for instance, we're getting like this broken PvP trinket, and I mean everyone wants this right now. That would probably be like a reason to do content, which there's just not. Again, I mean that kind of sentiment you can apply to anything. You can say like, well, in 10.0.5 we're gonna bring out this new dungeon, this new mega dungeon, and instead of doing it once and then sadly never going back to it, I mean I would love to go back to it, I think I've enjoyed my time in the mega dungeon, gonna be like, oh well, right now we're just in 10.0.5, we're releasing this new dungeon, there's like this broken item. I think we saw that actually with the healer trinket. I think stuff like that is great because um, it slightly trivializes mythic encounters, of course. But I mean, there were some broken clips about it, so it's taken with a grain of salt. But I definitely think going out of your way to do content that you might not be doing is very healthy, and I think that is underutilized in the slightest at this very moment. I wanted to end this video on a positive note. I'm gonna start making some. To end this video off, I want to end it on a positive note. I can definitely say that I cherish my memories and that I enjoyed my time playing WoW. I just don't think I enjoy playing WoW at the moment for the various reasons listed. I hope Blizzard can, of course, who knows, perhaps change some things for next year. Yeah, the PTR for 10.2, it is not up right now, but I'll probably play some PTR if the PTR is up. And if the game is good, I mean the game is good, I'll just play it. I mean, it's not like I don't like raiding. I mean, I like playing the game. That's all basically. And so I'm just gonna do what I enjoy at the moment, that is just playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm gonna have an absolute blast on that. So with that in mind, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have maybe shared the sentiment. Feel free to talk down below in the comments about this topics that I listed. And foremost, just yeah, I mean, enjoy yourself.